Welcome everyone to another episode of Behind the Mic. Today we have a very special guest in the building, Dan Gonzales. Dan, thank you so much for being here, man.
Yeah, it's great to be here, Marty, and happy to give your listeners a good session.
Absolutely. I've been listening to a few episodes since we got connected of Startup Mindset. But for the listeners that maybe they're not aware or they haven't checked it out yet, which they should, can you tell us a bit more about Startup Mindset, what the show's about, what are the main topics that you guys discuss, and just give a context on the things that you talk about on that show.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started a podcast called Startup Mindset in April 2020. Yeah, we generally just talk everything that has to do with entrepreneurship, but particularly like with the startups and technology. Like that subset of entrepreneurship is a little bit different from your traditional business, right? Like because here out in Silicon Valley and other places in the world, where when people try to do something big within the innovation and technology space, there's a different mindset that's needed compared to let's just hustle and make as much money as we can. Although that does come into that, and so the show is just a guest-based show where we talk to executives or founders or venture capitalists and sort of that kind of crew. Just to get their take on what their experience has been as founder, and then really get to know like the best the tips and tricks and like what's kind of hot in the market. It's been a variety of people, so there's never really been just one same conversation type of thing. Yeah. And the last part you had asked was what made me get started, or like what?
Yeah, so I was going to ask you about at what point do you decide to start a podcast, right? At one point, you were like, I love to interview these people. Let's set up the podcast. Let's get this started. What made you come to that decision? And is there an inflection point that you're like, okay, now we have to do it?
Yeah, it's actually funny. I thought what kind of kicked what catalyzed the podcast was my friend and I, we were writing a book, and we just had to remember what people were saying, and there was no way for me to. I mean, it would have just been silly to record it and not put it on the web and make it like a hopeful splash. Yeah, I mean, also like the good thing about the podcast proposal is if you approach like a friend of yours or like just a complete stranger and you say, "Can you be in my podcast?" It kind of I guess in my mind or in their mind, it kind of makes them feel special.
Right.
I mean,
Yep.
it's just good. It's just good. I mean, even though if you're like nobody who just started from nowhere, I think with any idea, it can kind of reach a couple thousand people with an hour or two of effort.
Right. And I always say it's like the best excuse to pick someone's brain, right? Because if you were like,
Yeah,
hey,
yeah.
let's jump on a Zoom call for 30 minutes, they're going to be like, dude, I'm busy. Like, fuck, like, no. But if you say,
Yeah.
hey, come into the show, then it's like, oh, okay, when works for you, right?
Yeah. I've had a lot of better success than I could have kind of like I guess imagined initially, since I've had like some big people on the show. Not I wouldn't say like celebrities, but getting a owner of a Chick-fil-A was not exactly easy, since I didn't know the guy. But I mean, with good messaging and kind of like evidence of like, oh, we've talked to 30 people before, you could make a great addition. And then like I guess another guy that I had was let's see, no, like the chief innovation officer of San Jose, who I did know a little bit, but then the show was a way to get more, I guess, closer or become better friends, I guess, or something like that.
I love that. What's that messaging or pitch look like? So when you select someone, you say, hey, I think that person will be a great guest on the show. How do you go about reaching out to them and making them feel like, or just pitching your show for them to come over?
Yeah, that's a great question. So my what's it called, co-host is also somewhat involved in getting guests on. But when I've done it just myself, I think I mean, I'll do two examples, like with the people I've know, like who've been on, and like people I've never met until I talked to them on the show. So for the first one, where it's people that I know, uh, I think it's just a LinkedIn message or like an email that I send,
Hmm.
with context that says like, this is why you're a fit, or like this would be great to talk about since you're a subject matter expert. And then yeah, just a really detailed message that just is more about like them compared to me. And then like for people I've that are cold messaging, I think
Right.
that's double like more, how do you say that, just more context for them, and like kind of
Hmm.
maybe say I could get on a call with you or get an introduction from someone else that's in their
I love that.
network.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a couple of questions on that. So you mentioned before that one of the ideas or catalyst of the podcast was the book. Can you tell us more about what relation has the book with the podcast? Is it some of the content from the interviews you're going to put that in the book, or was the book on hold now because of the podcast? How's that relationship between podcast and book?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. Yeah, I mean, I've been writing the book for like a year or so, and a lot of the content does fit inside the book, but then it's not a complete project yet. So we're like at 40, close to 40,000 words, which needs to get edited.
Wow.
However, yeah, so I guess I've taken a pause from writing the book, just focusing on different other stuff. But we did make some progress, and then uh, yeah, I think yeah, definitely using, sometimes when I'm writing the book, I forget like what people said to quote, so I'll just
Right.
click play on the Spotify or like the Apple, and then write it down.
I love that. Are the interviews based on things that you want to get for the book? So if you're inviting somebody over that you want to utilize them in the book, do you ask the question so that then you can get the content and and use it on the book, or it just happens randomly and the serendipity between the content that you repurpose to the book?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. Just with the serendipity side of just talking to a CEO and asking him about, for example, like I interviewed a guy named Emil Devian. He's a CEO of a company called Blue Dot, and they're doing really good, or they're 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 good. Yeah, they're doing good. So, and like something I'd asked him was what's it called? How do you get over like 200 investor pitches that said no to you, and you're running a business that's running out of money, and things like that. And like he was just saying, like you just got to constantly refine your story, and I think that really hit home to me because in processes that don't go your way, and that don't get the outcome you want, but you still desire, the object, like the win, or like the job, or like the money, or whatever it is, or like the girl, right? How do you keep going after something that's just continuing to be a failure, but or this that just doesn't work out? But he was just saying like constantly refining your mindset, and like your story is what gets you that eventual success. And then also saying that having something called like founder amnesia, where you don't let the past affect your current endeavors, is something that I think I will be putting in the book, and is something that is wisdom that's hard to come by, and glad to learn that from him.
I love that. I love that. What's the main benefit you've gotten out of podcasting, then? Is it getting that knowledge from the guest, or is there anything else that you're thinking out of all the hours that I've invested
Yeah.
into podcasting? What's the main thing you're getting out of?
Yeah, it's funny, and I think I have like a couple of different ideas on like what the best benefit was, but to me, it's been better, I guess, social skills, or better, like like, yeah, I guess it translates into public speaking skills as well, but definitely just being more confident with the way I sound, because in the beginning I was editing this. I was like so insecure about my voice, man. I kept editing. I kept
Absolutely.
editing my voice out. I was like, what do I do here? But I think after like 10 to 20 episodes, like I'd be interviewing like high profile guests. Like one time we talked to a professor from Harvard or like a faculty at Harvard. And me, I'm not like I don't have like what do you call that? The biggest, fanciest degree in the world, or like I don't, I don't, right? And then, but after just doing that just proves that you can kind of come from anywhere and talk to anyone. It doesn't matter how sophisticated you sound or like what words you use. So I think definitely the biggest thing I take away is just knowing how to make a conversation better and like overall just knowing how to have fun at the same time while doing that.
I love that. And I guess that kind of leads me to, was that just first 10, 20 episodes about, I guess, feeling a bit self-conscious or not being too fully sure? Was that the biggest challenge you faced on your journey podcasting? Or has there been any other challenging things along the way?
Yeah, that's another good question. I think for me the challenge has always been well, I mean, sometimes the challenge is just reaching out to someone who you think would reject your message or like not reply. But yeah, so after doing that for like 10, 20 times, there were like a couple people who never replied, right?
Right,
But
for sure.
and just getting over that mental health, that mental block. But not surprisingly, but the people who have replied to things that are some of the people that I never thought or that I thought were going to be hard to convince, but what wasn't hard to convince. I think people are nicer than we give them credit for. But also another challenge was the voice thing. It was like it was a challenge too, but I guess like you stop caring, you can't really do anything.
You really do.
And then maybe and then you also you do learn how to speak a little bit clearer and stop kind of putting in filler words. And after you listen to your voice, it's you just speak a little bit better after a while.
Yeah, I remember when I went to record my first episode, I had this brilliant idea to do it live instead of via Zoom. There was an entrepreneur. I was still in Barcelona, and I've hired this like videographer for like $50 to come and film it. And dude, when I was going to that interview, I was so nervous. I was shaking. I was like, oh, why the fuck did I want to do this? And then you can do it 5, 10, 15 times, and then it starts getting easier every time, right? At the end of the day, the more it's like practicing, it's like working out, it's like whatever. The more you do it, the easier it gets. Do you listen? I'm curious about this. Do you listen to your episodes all the time? Maybe when you're editing or.
Yeah, for sure. I think like with editing, I do listen to the episodes, but then that is also like time consuming. So I just realized it doesn't matter if there's like tiny like segments like 20 seconds that are kind of I wouldn't say. I guess what I'm saying is like there's not such thing as like a perfect episode or whatever. So there's like 20 seconds of weird sound, not weird sound, but like just weird conversation.
Maybe you're rambling or whatever.
Yeah. It's like, should I edit this out? Should I not edit it out? But then also I've been trying to turn to making TikTok clips, and the clip stuff, it's like only for like 60 seconds. And then
how's that going? How's turning the podcast into TikTok going for you?
I could be better, man.
I feel you.
I put out like 5 clips, and doing that social media stuff is another job I think someone can have.
Totally, yeah. How are you turning them into clips? Do you is the podcast video and then you cut it in vertical, or how's the process or what the output?
That's a good question. So I've experimented with like just doing the audio with like, and then include it into like a picture of them or the picture of the show or whatever, and just having like a voice, what do you call that, like
a couple
sound
of
wave.
Yeah.
I've tried doing that, but then like with the video, it's a little bit more interesting and fun
Right.
for people to watch. Like so, like with the Zoom recording, like this one, for example, like I could try editing it on software, and then what's it called? Also, like putting a cool tagline on the top. You know, maybe you do that too.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I think there's a lot of content that can be repurposed from podcasts that makes sense. I have a couple final questions, Dan, in the last 5 minutes. We talked about how you've interviewed great people and they've shared some very interesting stuff. What makes a great guest for you? So, what does an ideal guest have to do or say to turn that into a great interview?
Yeah. That's, I guess to answer that, I think it depends on a great guest, but I think the majority of people I've spoken to have been great guests, and I think it's just a guest who is very like what do you call that? Very experienced in the field and just has a lot of information to pull from and can communicate that in an interesting way. And I guess one example is I talked to a friend who's a venture capitalist at his own venture fund, and I had asked him a question like, what was I asking him? Like just about doing difficult stuff, and like he was just saying like just because something's difficult doesn't mean it's not worth doing. And this guy had like went to Harvard Business School and worked at Google and like founded a company and raised a bunch of money, made a hospital, do some a lot of crazy good stuff in the world, man. And I guess like what stood out to me in that was just honesty. A guest who's honest and just is insightful and says something that's really unique. But I guess you can never know that until you talk to them. But
right.
I mean, you could say like guest with a bunch of accomplishments, but I mean, to me, a good guest is just someone who is doing something cool or has like a good experience that you could figure out, get more into with the show.
Yeah, I feel like from what I've seen, guests that share with full transparency, right? I call it radical transparency.
Yeah.
And then where they don't really hold anything back, and they're really sharing the good, the bad, the pretty, the ugly, mixed with technical skills that are actual tactics that people can take away from. I think that's probably what we look for in guests. But then it's about how we as a host, right, we create that environment for the guests to really feel comfortable sharing and to really want to go in depth. So I think it's a bit of back and forth.
True.
Between the guest and the host to make sure that the interview is good.
That's a great point. Yeah. I think you're right about the interview being kind of just what do you call that? Set up with the host and the environment, right. However you put that together.
Yeah, absolutely. Dan, last question before we let you go. We ask this to everybody. If you could interview anyone, they can be dead or alive, you can bring them to the show. Who would it be and why?
Wow, that's such a fun and I guess tough question for me to.
It's tough. Put you in the spot.
Am I allowed to ask who you would have, or what people said in the past?
I can tell you what Safa said in the past. I'm still thinking about mine.
Yeah. What did Safa say?
He said the Roman Emperor Marco Aurelio, the guy that wrote Meditations. Yeah, he said that he's taking a lot from that book, and that would be his ideal guest. Let's talk about stuff like this. He doesn't deserve to be mentioned in this show again.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, who would yours be? Does anyone come to mind in terms of?
I don't know. I guess there's no right answer for that. I would just say like
there's no right or wrong answer. No.
Yeah, for sure. I think good. I mean, I'd love to talk to Ralph Waldo Emerson. Do you know who that is?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just
why
like
him?
The poet. Well, I mean, to me, I think I don't know. I mean, maybe I've read some of his stuff in the past before, but I think over the weekend or a week or two, I encountered like this article in the news or the Wall Street Journal about how he just approached overcoming challenges, and like something like about him was his like wife died and like his son died, but then like the key lesson was like to plunge forward. And I just wanted to I guess I would love to bug him about how he did that, and like what he what made him say, or what made him choose those choices, particularly like just getting back to work, and like something that's like so human is just forgetting about, like the best thing is like don't dwell on like failure, and just get back to the work. It's a hard thing, because I think people like us, we think about like the tough or we let the tough times drag on for a little bit too long. I don't know. I mean, he's just saying like that's what he's done to be successful, and I think we'd love to talk to him about that.
That would be a good interview. That would be unique guest. That was very interesting. Awesome, Dan. So I appreciate you taking the time to jump in and also get to know each other. I will put the link to Startup Mindset as well below for people to reach out, for people to check it out. Dan runs a great podcast. If you're listening, you should go ahead and subscribe on his show. Dan, I appreciate you taking the time to be here, man. I really do.
Yeah, for sure, Marty. Yeah, if I'm in New York, I'll hit you up, dude. And even if I'm insane someday.
Anytime. Right. Appreciate you, Dan. Take care.